Welcome to Tourism Talk. I'm Laura Schomburg, Marketing Director at the Paducah Convention and Visitors Bureau. And today I have Bonnie Browning, AQS Executive Show Director, here with me to preview the 2015 AQS QuiltWeek Paducah. Welcome, Bonnie. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you, and boy, do we have a great show planned again for this year.
We do. I'm so excited to talk about all the details, and it's hard to believe that it could get any better than last year's 30th anniversary.
Just means we're on to 31.
That's right. We'll just keep on going. Let's talk about last year a little bit. It was such a great event, record attendance, just some really special celebrations happened throughout the week, and I know throughout the year for the American Quilters Society.
Well, yes, you know, we celebrated at all 7 of our shows in 2014. But speaking about Paducah, you know, sometimes people don't really realize the impact that this show has on our community. But we did a survey of all of the people that were registered for the show right after the show. And we sent that data to the state tourism department, and they analyzed it. And the impact of this show for those 5 days, basically, of the show was $25.4 million.
Wow.
That's a lot of money that's being pumped into this community. So, you know, we'll do that a little more often. We hadn't done one for 10 years, and the previous number had been 17 million. So we know that the quilters are coming to town and they're spending a lot of money, and then that impacts our whole community. It makes everything better for everybody.
Absolutely, and it's so great, like you said, 10 years to see that huge jump and to be able to talk about that impact that celebrating quilting has on our whole city.
It does.
So here we go again, the 31st year of AQS Quilt Week, and the dates are April 22nd through the 25th. So it's coming up quickly.
Well, it is, and of course we'll kick it off on Tuesday night like we always do with the announcement of the awards at the Carson Center. And this year, you know, we always have some kind of entertainment at the awards presentation. This year it's David Taylor, and if anybody knows David, he's a male quilter who's won lots of awards with his quilts, and he does a lot of things that are very realistic looking. He's done like the head of a chicken that's huge, and his dog at a fence. He's done some really unique quilts, but he wins lots of prizes. So he's going to tell us a little bit about that.
Great, and we always love to see the male quilters come out. It kind of gives a new perspective to some of the ladies.
Well, and then the awards are followed by the sneak preview, and of course that's a benefit that we do every year for the National Quilt Museum. And the Convention Center and the Expo Center will be open for that. And that's when everybody gets to get the first look at those big winners.
Yes, that's always exciting. There's always a big line. So this is a good time, I think, to talk about pre-registration. Just before we get into some of the other events, where can people find all the details and kind of get registered and prepared to visit?
If they go to QuiltWeek.com, you'll see a menu there of all of the shows. You just click on the show that you're interested in. For this one, you would just choose Paducah, and it will come up with the information. Now, the general information is listed under the heading called About, and that's where you'll find if you want to rent a scooter or a wheelchair. It'll have information about food. All of that general information will be listed under that About heading.
Very good. And then once you get registered for Quilt Week, always check our website, the CVB website, paducah.travel/quilting, and you'll find even more about the sanctioned events and some of the other community-related events happening as well. So mark those websites, and we'll kind of get into talking about some of those events that they can register for.
Okay, can we talk about lodging first? Because that's probably the most asked question that we're getting right now is, I can't find a hotel room. So we do have a list on paducah.travel. If you click on quilting, and then under that is the AQS approved accommodations. And that will tell you if there are any rooms available. Sometimes they will have some rooms come open that maybe a bus didn't completely fill or something, that we have a few. But in the event they don't get a room at a hotel, we have the home-hosted bed program where people can stay in private homes.
Yes.
And hundreds of people stay in those homes every year, don't they?
They do, and that is another great resource, as you said, alongside the accommodations list. The host home program application is available also on Paducah.travel. So kind of those two resources, between the two, hopefully everyone will be able to find something to meet their needs.
When I'm asked that when I'm out on the road, I always tell the quilters, the fact that you can't find a hotel, don't give up, because you could stay in a private home. Many of our vendors have stayed in those private homes for years, and now they're like part of the family.
That's right, that's right. It becomes sort of a tradition to come back to that home. So yes, those are great resources to talk about too. The contest is a huge part. As you mentioned, the awards presentation and that sneak preview. Tell us a little bit about what's coming up with the contest, how that timeline is looking. And
well, the entry deadline has passed now. They'll be juried in a couple weeks, so I think it's the early March that everybody will get their letters on whether they're accepted or rejected. And what they need to know is that it's usually about half of the entries are juried into the contest. It's a really tough competition here in Paducah because we can only hang about 410, I believe, is the maximum number. So if we get 800 entries, you can see that only half of those are going to get selected.
Right, and there are many categories. We always love to see the diversity of hand quilted, machine quilted, miniatures, full-size quilts. Where can visitors see these quilts? Where will they be housed?
Well, we will have, in the Expo Center, we will have the large quilts. That's all the bed size and large wall quilts. And those are in the Expo Center, and along with vendors all the way around them. And then in the Convention Center on the second floor is where we put the miniatures, and the wall quilts are all up there. And of course, all of the big winners are featured special in a special area in both of those locations. But you know, our prize money is $125,000. That's a lot of money that we give each year.
Right.
This year alone, through our 7 shows, we'll be giving out $449,000 in prize money to quilters.
Wow.
That's why AQS shows draw the very best quilts that are being made today. But you know, every year we have brand new people that have never entered before and have never won before win some of our prizes.
Yes.
So the fact that you see some names out there that have won at some other events, maybe you're entered in the same contest, don't let that deter you, because every year we have people that win for the very first time, and you can't win if you don't enter.
That is right. And I know one of my favorite moments at the show every year is going to that awards presentation, and you hear a first-time winner squeal when their name is called and they get to go up on stage and accept an award from you and the sponsors.
Yes.
That is so exciting.
Yes, well, and it is, and especially because they always think, oh, my quilt isn't good enough.
Right.
It's fun when we get to prove them wrong and that their quilt really is good enough.
That is right. What a good point. Oh.
Okay, and so we have lots of things going on through the week. Tuesday night, of course, is the awards and the sneak preview. Wednesday evening, we have a night with Adita Sitar, and I think her classes are already all full, but she is very popular, and she makes very traditional quilt designs, but she uses really cool fabric to make them. So her quilts have a special feel that I think everybody recognizes it as one that's made by Adita.
Very cool. So is that a lecture?
It's a lecture that will be in the Eisenhower room.
Great.
And then on Thursday night, we have, of course, the quilt auction.
Yes.
And that, too, this year will be in the Eisenhower room. The last couple of years, we've held it outside in the tent. This year, they've decided they're not going to risk the weather. And I think last year we had some trouble with our communication links to be able to have bidding from outside.
Right.
By doing it inside the building, then get that all set up, and we shouldn't have any issues with that.
Yeah, and that's a good point, that you can bid from off-site for the auction.
Yes, and that information will be on the Quilt Museum's website, which is
quiltmuseum.org?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So be sure to check that. I think that's live 30 days prior to the auction. So.
And they'll have pictures and everything of some of the pieces that we'll be bidding on.
Yes.
And you know, I almost get a piece every year. It's a fun place to add to your collection.
That's right.
Yes. On Friday at noon, we're doing a picnic in the park at Dolly McNutt Plaza again. That was a huge success last year. This year, the quilter that will be there is Kimberly Einmo, and she's a dynamo. If you haven't had an opportunity to attend a lecture or class with Kimberly, you might want to sign up for the picnic in the park, and you'll get lunch too.
Yeah.
And then that afternoon from 4:30 to 5:30, we have the Authors Roundtable. If somebody is interested in or has an idea of something to be published, this is a good place to go, because you're going to hear from people that have just gone through that whole experience of what it was like to work with AQS and what they had to do personally to make sure they got everything all finished.
Right.
It's a really good one, and it's free. There's no admission charge for that. And then on Friday night, we have Ricky Timms. You know, Ricky brings us a new program every year, and everybody certainly does look forward to that. And this will be another good program from Ricky.
And at the Carson Center?
It will be at the Carson Center, yes.
Wonderful.
And the awards, too, is at the Carson Center. Tuesday night and Friday night are at the Carson Center.
Great.
And then on Saturday, and I forgot to say, but on Tuesday we do All-Star Review. That's actually our first event, Tuesday afternoon. For those people that get to town early, it's from 1 until 3. And it's a demo from several of the instructors, and you get a handout. We do that on Tuesday, and then we finish up with it at 1 to 3 on Saturday afternoon. So that kind of takes us through our special events through the whole week.
Very good. And all those, you can pre-register. Which is a great way to plan your itinerary and sort of get your feet on the ground right away here and start moving. So that's wonderful. You mentioned a couple of lectures and noted some workshops, which something that we always like to tout is the AQS School of Quilt Making. Thousands of quilters take these workshops each year with some of the best faculty, the best quilting teachers in the world. So I know we were just discussing there are so many. We aren't quite sure how many this year, but over 100.
Yeah, I want to say 120 or more classes, and some of them are already filling. So they need to go on to quiltweek.com right away and get themselves registered for that. And while they're at it, they can buy their admission. You can buy single day, 2-day, multi-day admission, and so they want to do that too in advance.
Give us a preview of what some of those classes might be like, some of the different content. I know it ranges from more traditional piecing and technique sort of classes to design to the quilt appraisal program.
It does, and you know, we have one room set up with long arm machines in it, so that if somebody wants to come try out a machine, that's a good way to do it, is to take a 3-hour class and learn from one of our long arm instructors. And I mean, we have everything from designing, simple math, become a brilliant binder. You know, sometimes the binding is a problem when you're trying to put it on a quilt. We have reverse applique by machine, skinny Bargello, pineapple smoothie, machine quilting on your home domestic machine.
That's a good one.
You know, we all own these machines, and how many of us can do that?
Right.
I can't do it very well. I usually quilt with my credit card, but that's okay too.
You may be in that workshop this year. That's great. How many classes, how many students took classes last year?
Oh, it's over. We had over 4,500 people registered here at this event.
Wow.
So that's how many we sent the survey to.
Very
was
good.
4,500 people.
Very good. And and then another facet, of course, the merchant mall, the vendors. Everybody's ready to shop when they get to Paducah.
Well, and you know, the vendors wait until Paducah to make sure that they have the very latest products. They want to make sure they've been to spring market, they know what the new products are. They want to make sure they have those new products here for our quilters. And of course, you'll have a wonderful array of different sewing machines.
Yes.
Every sewing machine company, you can come try them out. That's a question we get at the office a lot is, what sewing machine do you suggest? I always tell them, come to one of our shows. You can test drive every one of them. Bring some of your own fabric. You know, they usually use that real stiff fabric, which is kind of deceiving because you don't really know how the stitches look when you put it on a soft fabric. Bring some fabric, sit down and test drive them. And if you're in the market for a long arm, they all have them all set up.
That's right.
You know, I go through every one of those, and right, Bonnie was here on all of those.
I'll be looking for that this year. Everyone else look for that too. That is a great suggestion. Kind of get a feel for what works for your style.
And we have, you know, batting, thread, a whole variety of notions, different companies that carry notions, and lots of fabric.
Yeah.
You know, it takes fabric to make quilts, and
That's right.
you can't have too much fabric, you know.
That's right. And you did note your scarf is comes from a vendor mall. This
Yes,
is
and
beautiful.
it's, I'm sorry I can't tell you her last name, but it's Nancy, and she's a hand weaver.
Yeah.
My husband bought this for me. This is the first time I've even actually worn it.
Yeah, great occasion.
but it's real pretty, and it's in my colors.
Very good. So you can get a little attire, some textile art to wear as well.
And you know, we have some people that do jewelry that's quilt related.
Yes,
that,
the buttons.
the button jewelry. So there are other things too. If you're not a quilter, number one, you want to come to see the best fiber art show you're ever going to see,
Right.
and then shop the vendors, because there will be something there for you too.
That is right. Wonderful. I guess, let's see, what else? We talked about the special events that AQS puts on, and there are some other events that happen throughout the community. Quilt Week, obviously, 31 years. The community really embraces this event. You know, the window displays, you see the dogwood quilt block banners along the streets. There are some great sanctioned events that AQS is affiliated with, or the community is affiliated with AQS. Can you tell us about those?
Yes, and you know what? We're excited when we have the sanctioned events, because number one, it means that we sanctioned that particular event. They pay a fee for that. But it also, for the case of the Rotary and the National Quilt Museum, the Yiser Art Center, you can buy your ticket through us.
Yes.
And then we turn those funds over to them after the show. So if you're trying to pay all your fees up front, you can go buy your tickets, and they're all multi-day, so you just pay one fee. The museum is $10, it's $7 for the Rotary, and $5 at the Yiser. The Yiser has the Fantastic Fibers exhibit,
Yes.
and they get hundreds of entries, and I don't know, they choose maybe about 100 pieces, and they're everything related to fiber. They're not just quilts. They might be sculpture, they might be bowls or something like that, but it's all made out of fiber. So they have a real variety there. You don't want to miss that.
No, it's always, I mean, every year there's a new innovative fiber art technique that we see. So I can't wait to see what it'll be this year.
Yes, and then the National Quilt Museum, of course, they usually have the school block challenges there, the new quilts from an old favorite, quilts in the in the collection or in the center gallery, and then they always have some other special exhibits to go along with that. So it's well worth it. And they have a variety of special activities going on at the Quilt Museum too. So you want to make sure that you look at quiltmuseum.org, and you'll get the whole list and the lineup of what they have going on. Something new this year is the Paducah Derby.
Yes.
We're working with the Merriman House, and they're going to do ducks dumped in the river. And no ducks are harmed in this. They're all plastic ducks. But they'll dump the ducks off of a barge, and downriver there will be a machine underneath that will suck the ducks down, and those people will win some prizes. And so they're just getting that on their website now. But it's $5 to adopt a duck, or you can get the Quack Pack, which is 6 for $25. But the link is on our website, and it'll take you right to their website to be able to adopt those. They're going to do that on Saturday afternoon down on the riverfront. So we hope everybody will get in the act and adopt a duck, and who knows, you might be a prize winner.
That's right. Just walk on down to the river from the convention center and adopt a duck.
That's right. And of course, the Rotary does the Antique Quilt Show.
Yes.
And this year, Mary Kerr has some hexie quilts that will be on display there. Eleanor Burns is one of our sanctioned events, and she'll be doing some different things at 3 different properties that she has here on Jefferson Street, Kentucky, and at her shop down on 4th Street. And have I missed somebody?
Paper Pieces?
Paper Pieces Palooza.
This is an exciting, lots of events.
Yes. You know, Paper Pieces bought Carol Fallard's home and shop.
Yes.
And so they're calling it the Hexie House. What they sell are those little paper pieces that you do a lot of hand machine or hand work with, and right now the hexagons are crazy wild. Everybody's making hexie quilts. They'll be doing some special events there. They also are sponsoring Kathy Miller, the singing quilter, on the lawn of the Quilt Museum on Thursday afternoon.
Yes.
So you want to make sure it's free. You want to make sure that you go enjoy that.
Yeah, some great lectures and workshops and that sort of thing. We're glad to have them fill Carol Fallert's former studio. They will have to register because they have limited space. They're doing some lectures and some workshops there at the Hexie House. And so if you go to our website, you'll see the link to get to their website so that you can go register. Very good. So many exciting things going on.
All over town.
That's right. That's right. You might as well get those tickets and book a few days.
That's right.
Something that always strikes me is the international appeal that AQS draws and sort of connects people through this art of quilting around the world. And this AQS being home here in Paducah, that's certainly part of the reason that Paducah has been named a UNESCO Creative City of Crafts and Folk Art, celebrating quilting. And you all do have an international membership base. We always see international quilts in the contest. And you all do a lot of international work around the year, beyond Quilt Week.
We do, and we have members in every U.S. state and 80 other countries.
Wow.
That's a lot of countries.
All around the world.
All around the world.
Yes.
And of course, the last 3 years now, we've been working with the tent makers of Egypt, and we had them at the show a year ago. And so we still have some of their pieces, and we still will have an exhibit of their work at this year's show. In addition to that, in October, Ann Hamill and I from the AQS office went to China to visit a quilt show, and they invited us over there because they make quilts commercially, but they don't make quilts as art. And so they're trying to figure out how they can best expand quilts as art and develop that part of the industry in China. And right now I met we called her the famous Chinese quilter because I only met one, really, a lady from China who was a quilter. But there were quilters from Taiwan and Japan and several other countries that were there for this exhibit.
Very interesting. So it's the Asian countries. I mean, I know here in Paducah we see a lot of Japanese quilts and that sort of thing. But I guess China, it was very great that they sought you all out to help.
Well,
sort of
and it was in
establish that.
Qichao, which is known as the textile city.
Yes.
They ship more textiles out of that city than any other city in Asia. So everything was textiles. But what they didn't have quilt shops, like we think of quilt shops. They didn't have batting that you could buy on the open market. So we told them that they need to really start at a grassroots level and get some women together for quilt guilds. That's what expanded quilting in this country, was when we started having quilt guilds everywhere, and then that made, they would then break off and start another group, or they'd move and start another group. That helps expand quilting in this country a lot. Yeah,
sort of maybe a primitive form of what Quilt Week sort of is now, getting all the quilters together. That's great. I know I brought a magazine with me today, the Patchwork magazine from Japan. I know last year with the 30th anniversary we had some great media visits from around the world. Japan, and they did an 11-page spread on the 30th anniversary of Quilt Week, and it's wonderful. I can't read it, but there's some beautiful photos, and it really highlights the city and all those great things that AQS and the quilt shops and the National Quilt Museum are doing. Who else visited us last year? What other media? I think.
Oh gosh, we always have. We had Gilles from Gilles Laporte from France, and as a result of that, we now are exhibiting. It's a Studio Art Quilt Associates, the SAQUA group, but it's the international group. So all year long we will be displaying quilts that came from Europe and the Middle East.
Very good.
So, and that was really as a result of
Yeah.
meeting with Jill here last year that we're doing that. And so she's collected them all and is shipping them over here to us. And we'll be displaying those here at Paducah and then at all the other shows.
That is a great connection, and I know that that European patchwork connection also led to an exhibit at the Quilt Museum here. So it's been great to kind of make those connections through Quilt Week.
It is.
And I think we had Scotland represented, maybe somewhere in South America as well. So it's great to see all around the world people recognizing AQS as a leader.
And you know, it's really interesting to me as I watch what happens on our website of how we have people going to our website from Russia. And of course we know Germany and France and England, but Brazil is one that's up and coming, and we're having a lot more people come to our shows from Brazil, but Turkey and Israel and lots of other countries are visiting our website. And last year they viewed over 1 million items on our YouTube channel.
That is wonderful.
Yes.
We love the analytics at the CVB as well. It's so cool to see, and especially with Quilt Week approaching. I was looking yesterday, and we see all of those countries represented, getting their lodging aligned and kind of planning that bucket list trip to Quilt City, USA.
Do you know, we try to make every one of our events really a quilting experience. It isn't just like coming and paying your money and then nobody pays any attention to you. We hope that when you come in, you're visiting with some of the other quilters, because truly our events are international and they come from all over the world.
Absolutely. It's a great way to connect, to learn, to sort of just celebrate the art of quilting. We're so glad that you were able to join us today and highlight the 2015 event, April 22nd through the 25th. And let's review quiltweek.com to get your tickets, and paducah.travel/quilting to get your lodging and other events set up. And then when they get to the show, we of course have the April events guide with the Dogwood Trail map and all of that. And the show book is also a great tool when they arrive.
Yes, and also on your information, they have the meals that are being held at the churches and other places around the city. And then other areas around, Grand Rivers does a quilt show. They need to just check out all of those because they might be able to make a stop on their way into town.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Bonnie. So many great things happening, and we look forward to seeing everyone in Quilt City, USA in April. We thank you all for joining us today, and we look forward to April 22nd through the 25th, AQS Quilt Week Paducah. Thank you. Bye-bye.
1, 2, 1, 2, go. Hello, ba-ba-da-ba-ba. Ba-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da. Hello, ba-ba-da-ba-ba. Ba-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da. Ba-da-ba-da-ba-ba. Ba-ba-da-ba-ba. Ba-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da. Ba-da-ba-da-ba-ba. Ba-ba-da-ba-ba. Ba-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da. Ba-da-bow. Hello, ba-ba-da-ba-ba. Ba-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da. Hello, ba-ba-da-ba-ba. Ba-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da. Ba-da-ba-da-ba-ba. Ba-ba-da-ba-ba.